There is a moment in every person's life that changes everything. The strange part is most people don't even realize it's happening. They think success arrives with a loud announcement. They imagine destiny knocking on the front door. They expect fireworks, applause, and some magical sign from the universe saying, now it's your time. But life doesn't work that way. Life whispers. Opportunity whispers. Growth whispers. And if you're too distracted, too impatient, or too busy comparing your journey to somebody else's, you'll miss the whisper that could have changed your entire future. Let me tell you something. The difference between people who transform their lives and people who spend decades wondering what went wrong isn't always intelligence. It isn't talent. It isn't even luck. It's timing. Not the timing you wait for. The timing you prepare for, because timing is everything. Think about this for a moment. Imagine planting a seed. You don't dig it back up every morning asking, why haven't you become a tree yet? You understand something. There is a season for planting, a season for watering, a season for waiting, and finally, a season for harvesting. Now here's what most people don't understand. They love the harvest. They hate the waiting. But life has never separated the two. Every harvest is built inside a season. Nobody applauds. Every extraordinary life is built during ordinary days. Every successful person you've ever admired spent years becoming invisible before becoming unforgettable. I learned something years ago that completely changed the way I looked at success. Life is not rewarding you according to your wishes. It rewards you according to your readiness. Read that again inside your own mind, not your wishes, your readiness, because opportunity has a strange habit. It shows up exactly when you've become the person capable of handling it, not before. Think about the people who suddenly became successful. Everyone says they were lucky. Nobody saw the mornings they woke up before sunrise. Nobody saw the nights they worked after everyone else had gone to sleep. Nobody saw the books they read, the habits they built, the failures they survived, the tears nobody knew about. Success looked sudden. Preparation lasted years. Timing wasn't luck. Timing was preparation meeting opportunity. There's a young man I once met who believed life had forgotten him. Every day he scrolled through social media, watching friends, buying houses, getting promotions, starting businesses, traveling the world. Meanwhile, he was still working the same ordinary job. Every morning felt the same. Every paycheck disappeared before the month ended. He looked around and thought everyone else's clock was moving faster than his. He became angry, then frustrated, then hopeless. One afternoon, an older gentleman asked him a simple question. Why are you measuring your chapter 3 against someone else's chapter 20? The young man laughed, but the question refused to leave him. He realized he wasn't losing because life hated him. He was losing because comparison had stolen his patience. So he made one decision, just one. He stopped racing people. He started building himself. He read 10 pages every morning. He exercised every day, whether he felt motivated or not. He saved a small amount from every paycheck. He learned new skills after work instead of watching television for hours. Nothing dramatic happened. 30 days, nothing. 90 days, still nothing. 6 months. People still thought he was ordinary. 1 year, he began thinking differently. 2 years, he earned a promotion. 3 years, he started his own company. 5 years, the same people who once ignored him started asking him for advice. Was it luck? No. It was timing. The right habits, repeated long enough, created the right moment. Here's what most people don't understand. Timing is rarely about clocks. It's about character. Because if life gave you everything you wanted today, would you actually be ready to keep it? Money without discipline disappears. Opportunity without preparation becomes pressure. Success without character becomes destruction. So maybe, just maybe, life isn't delaying you. Maybe life is developing you. Think about that. Maybe the closed door wasn't punishment. Maybe it was protection. Maybe the delay wasn't rejection. Maybe it was preparation. Because there are lessons you can only learn in the waiting room. Pain has a classroom. Failure has a classroom. Loneliness has a classroom. Disappointment has a classroom. And the tuition is expensive. But the education lasts forever. Let me tell you a story. There was a craftsman who spent years creating beautiful furniture. One day, an impatient apprentice asked him, "Why do you spend so much time sanding the wood? Nobody notices that part." The old craftsman smiled. "I notice." Then he said something unforgettable. "The parts nobody sees determine the quality everyone sees." Isn't that true about life? People admire confidence. They don't see insecurity being conquered. People admire discipline. They don't see temptation being resisted. People admire wisdom. They don't see years of mistakes creating it. Everything visible was first invisible. Every masterpiece was once a rough sketch. Every champion was once a beginner. Every expert was once embarrassed. Every confident speaker once shook with fear. Timing, everything has its season. Here's what I want you to think about tonight. What if you're only one habit away from changing your future? Not one lottery ticket, not one miracle, one habit. Because habits have compound interest. One page today becomes 20 books. One workout becomes a healthier body. $1 saved becomes financial freedom. One conversation becomes a lifelong friendship. One decision becomes an entirely different destiny. The problem is, compound growth is invisible in the beginning. Imagine placing one drop of water into a bucket. Nothing changes. Another drop, still nothing. Another 1,000 drops, still doesn't look impressive. But eventually, the bucket overflows. People call it sudden. It wasn't sudden. It was accumulated. The same thing happens with character. The same thing happens with confidence. The same thing happens with success. Every disciplined choice is another drop. Every honest decision is another drop. Every early morning, another drop. Every difficult conversation you choose to have instead of avoiding, another drop. Eventually, your life begins overflowing with opportunities other people swear appeared overnight. No, they were filling the bucket when nobody was watching. Think about bamboo. For years after planting it, nothing remarkable appears above the ground. People assume nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, an enormous root system is spreading. Strength is growing where nobody can see it. Then suddenly, the bamboo shoots upward faster than anyone imagined. People celebrate the growth. Nature celebrates the roots. Your life works the same way. Never confuse invisible progress with no progress. Some of you listening right now are building roots. You're becoming stronger emotionally. You're learning patience. You're learning resilience. You're becoming someone who doesn't quit every time life becomes uncomfortable. And you think nothing is happening. Everything is happening. The roots always come before the rise. Here's something I wish every young person understood. Stop asking, when will my opportunity come? Start asking, who must I become before my opportunity arrives? That single question changes everything because the future belongs to prepared people. Imagine two individuals standing before the same open door. One spent years learning, growing, developing. The other spent years complaining, waiting, blaming. The same opportunity appears. One walks through confidently. The other panics. People call it timing. But timing favored preparation. Life has a fascinating way of testing us. It often sends responsibility before confidence. You become a parent before you feel ready. You become a leader before you feel qualified. You begin the business before all fear disappears. Confidence usually follows commitment. Not the other way around. Many people are waiting to feel ready. Successful people decide to become ready. There's a huge difference. I met a woman who wanted to write a book for nearly 15 years. 15 years. She had ideas. She had notebooks. She had dreams. But every year she waited for the perfect moment. Finally, someone asked her, "How many chapters have you written?" She quietly answered, "None." The dream wasn't dying because she lacked talent. The dream was dying because perfection kept postponing action. She began writing 1 page every day. Not 10. Some days the page was wonderful. Some days it wasn't. She kept writing anyway. Months later, a manuscript existed. A year later, a published book. Imagine if she had continued waiting. Timing didn't arrive. Action created timing. Remember this, you cannot steer a parked car. Movement creates momentum. Action creates clarity. Discipline creates confidence. Consistency creates transformation. Here's what pain teaches us. Pain says, you cannot stay who you are forever. Regret says, you should have changed sooner. Which teacher will you choose? Temporary pain or lifelong regret? Because every excuse charges interest. Every delay becomes more expensive. Every abandoned dream quietly becomes another reason to doubt yourself. But every courageous action, even the smallest one, begins rebuilding trust between you and your future. Think about your future self. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from today. Would that version thank you or question why you kept postponing your potential? That conversation is being written today. Not tomorrow. Today, every decision casts a vote for the person you're becoming. You're always becoming someone. The only question is, who? And here's something beautiful about life. No matter how late you think you are, you still have today. You still have this hour. You still have this decision. There are people who changed their lives in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. Not because the calendar suddenly became kinder, because they finally stopped negotiating with excuses. They accepted one simple truth. The best time to plant a tree was years ago. The next best time is the moment you finally decide that waiting has cost you enough. Let me ask you something. How many dreams have expired because someone believed they had missed their chance? How many businesses were never started? How many books were never written? How many conversations never happened? How many relationships were never repaired? Not because the opportunity disappeared, but because fear convinced someone that the timing had passed. Fear is a remarkable liar. It tells you you're too young. Then years later, it tells you you're too old. It tells you you're not ready. Then when you become ready, it tells you someone else is better. It never runs out of reasons. That's why courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is refusing to let fear become your calendar. Because life keeps moving, whether you move with it or not, every sunrise asks the same silent question. What will you do with me today? Some people spend the day wishing. Others spend the day building. Years later, the difference becomes impossible to ignore, and that's when people begin talking about perfect timing, even though the truth is much quieter, much deeper, and much more powerful than that. Because when you look closely, what people call perfect timing is usually the result of thousands of imperfect decisions made consistently over a long period of time. Let me tell you something. The clock on the wall measures hours. Life measures choices. And those are two completely different things. There are people who have lived 80 years and never truly lived a single one. There are others who transformed their entire future in 18 months because they finally decided that enough was enough. Think about this for a moment. How many Mondays have you promised yourself that this one would be different? This is the week I'll wake up early. This is the month I'll start saving money. This is the year I'll finally chase my dream. But somewhere between Monday morning and Wednesday afternoon, the old habits quietly return, not because you're weak, because habits don't disappear, simply because you make an emotional decision. They disappear because you replace them with stronger routines. Emotion starts the journey. Discipline finishes it. That's why motivation is a wonderful visitor, but a terrible roommate. You can't build your future on feelings because feelings change with the weather. Some mornings you'll feel unstoppable. Other mornings you'll question everything. If your future depends on how you feel today, your future becomes unpredictable. But if your future depends on what you do, regardless of how you feel, now you're becoming dangerous. Here's what most people never realize. Every successful person eventually falls in love with boring. Yes, boring, doing the right thing when nobody is watching, reading another chapter, making another sales call, practicing another hour, saving another dollar, choosing another healthy meal, going to bed on time again, getting up before sunrise again. Most people are addicted to excitement. Winners become addicted to consistency because they understand something the world often ignores. Greatness is usually repetitive. Not glamorous, not dramatic, repetitive. Imagine a sculptor standing before a giant block of stone. He strikes it once. Nothing happens. Twice. Still nothing. 50 times. No visible change. 100 times. The stone still stands. Then, on the 101st strike, the entire piece cracks open. Was it the final strike that broke the stone? Of course not. Every strike mattered. Even the ones that looked meaningless. Your effort works exactly the same way. Every workout counts. Every difficult decision counts. Every page you study counts. Every time you refuse to quit, it counts. Even when you can't see the crack forming, especially then. I remember hearing about an elderly gardener who planted fruit trees, knowing he would never sit beneath their shade. Someone asked him, "Why would you spend years growing something you'll never fully enjoy?" He smiled. Then he said quietly, "I've spent my whole life enjoying trees planted by people who thought beyond themselves." Think about the wisdom hidden inside those words. Timing isn't only about what you receive, it's about what you leave behind. The habits you build today may become the blessings your children experience tomorrow. The discipline you choose today may create opportunities your family has never known before. One decision can echo across generations. Isn't that incredible? Sometimes you're not just changing your own life, you're changing the direction of an entire family tree. You become the person who breaks the cycle, the one who says, "It ends with me." No more excuses, no more blaming, no more waiting for someone else to rescue me. Because personal responsibility is one of the greatest freedoms a human being can ever discover. The moment you stop saying, "Who is going to change my life?" and begin asking, "What can I do today?" Everything begins shifting. Your posture changes. Your conversations change. Your standards change. Your friendships change. Even your eyes begin looking at the world differently. Because victims search for explanations. Letters search for solutions. Now, don't misunderstand me. Life isn't fair. There are people listening right now who started 10 steps behind everyone else. Some grew up without encouragement. Some lost people they loved. Some experienced betrayal. Some carry wounds invisible to the world. Pain is real. Heartbreak is real. Loss is real. No philosophy should ever pretend otherwise. But here's the difficult truth. Pain may not be your choice. Remaining powerless is. That is one of the hardest lessons life ever teaches. You didn't choose every chapter that happened to you, but you can choose how the next chapter is written. Think about a sailor crossing an ocean. He cannot command the wind. He cannot stop the storm. He cannot tell the waves to calm down, but he can adjust the sails. That single decision determines whether the storm destroys him or carries him somewhere extraordinary. Life is asking all of us the same question. Will you curse the wind or learn to adjust your sails? There's an enormous difference. I once met a man who lost everything. His business failed. His marriage ended. His savings disappeared. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, "I thought I was buried." Then he paused. "But I eventually realized I had been planted." Think about that. The same dirt that buries one person can grow another. The difference isn't the dirt. The difference is perspective. That's why mindset matters so much. Your mind is either your greatest ally or your greatest prison. Every morning before the world speaks to you, your own thoughts speak first. They say, you can't. Or, try again. They say, it's too late. Or, today still belongs to you. They say, someone else deserves success more than you. Or, you become worthy by becoming better. Guard those conversations. Because nobody spends more time talking to you than you do. Imagine carrying around a friend who criticized everything you attempted. Eventually, you'd stop listening to them. Yet many people tolerate that same voice inside their own minds every single day. Chant that conversation, and you'll begin changing your life not overnight, but undeniably. Here's another lesson that changed the way I looked at timing. Sometimes the opportunity you've been praying for arrives disguised as inconvenience, a difficult project, an unexpected responsibility. A conversation you'd rather avoid. A challenge that stretches every part of your character. Most people reject these moments because they don't look exciting. But growth rarely arrives wearing comfortable clothes. Growth usually introduces itself as difficulty, as uncertainty, as discomfort. Think about every muscle in your body. It only grows after resistance. Your character follows the same law. No resistance, no growth, no challenge, no expansion, no discomfort, no transformation. That's why successful people stop asking, why is this happening to me? Instead, they ask, what is this trying to teach me? Notice the difference. One question creates helplessness. The other creates wisdom. Questions shape lives. Ask better questions. Receive better answers. Imagine waking up tomorrow and asking yourself, what one decision would make today meaningful? Not perfect. Meaningful, because meaningful days eventually become meaningful years. People often underestimate ordinary Tuesdays. They think life changes during weddings, graduations, big promotions, major celebrations. But life quietly changes on an ordinary Tuesday morning when someone decides, I refuse to remain who I was yesterday. Nobody applauds. Nobody notices. The world keeps spinning. Traffic continues. Emails arrive. Bills still need paying. Yet inside one human being, an entirely different future has just begun. That decision may never trend online, but it can transform generations. Here's what I want you to imagine. Picture two identical clocks, both ticking at exactly the same speed. One sits inside the home of someone who spends every evening complaining, blaming, avoiding responsibility. The other sits inside the home of someone reading, learning, planning, improving. The clocks move exactly the same. Time treats them equally. But choices don't. Years later, one person says, time went by so fast. The other says, look what time allowed me to build. Same hours, different habits, same days, different standards. That's why your standards determine your future more than your circumstances ever will. People rise to the level of what they tolerate. If you tolerate laziness, laziness becomes normal. If you tolerate negativity, negativity becomes your atmosphere. If you tolerate broken promises to yourself, your confidence slowly begins disappearing. Because confidence is built every time you keep a promise to yourself. I'll wake up at 6. And you do, confidence grows. I'll finish this chapter. And you do, confidence grows. I'll exercise today. And you do, confidence grows again. You don't become confident because someone compliments you. You become confident because you've collected enough evidence that you can trust yourself. Self-trust, that is one of the greatest forms of wealth you'll ever possess. Because once you trust yourself, you stop waiting for constant approval. You stop needing permission. You stop allowing every opinion to redirect your life. You begin walking with quiet certainty, not arrogance. Certainty. There's a remarkable difference. Arrogance says, I know everything. Certainty says, I know I'll keep learning. Arrogance fears mistakes. Certainty grows from them. Arrogance avoids failure. Certainty understands that failure, when examined honestly, often becomes one of life's greatest teachers. And that's where timing reveals another one of its deepest secrets. Sometimes what feels like you're falling behind is actually life slowing your pace just enough to teach you a lesson that will save you years of regret later. Most people fight those slower seasons. They panic because nothing spectacular seems to be happening. They assume they're losing ground, when in reality, they are building a foundation that will eventually carry far more weight than they can imagine. And if you pay close attention during those quiet seasons, you'll notice something extraordinary beginning to happen inside you. You begin realizing that the greatest transformation is almost never visible from the outside first. It begins in silence. Long before your income changes, your identity changes. Long before your circumstances improve, your standards improve. Long before the world notices your progress, you notice something different about yourself. You no longer react the way you used to. You no longer give up after one disappointment. You no longer allow one bad day to become a bad week. And that's when you understand something remarkable. Real success is an inside job. Everything outside is simply the reflection. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever watched the sunrise? Not in a hurry, not through the window of a moving car, but truly watched it. It doesn't happen all at once. The darkness doesn't suddenly disappear. The horizon changes almost too slowly to notice, minute by minute. The light quietly wins. Your life follows the same pattern. Most breakthroughs don't arrive like lightning. They arrive like sunrise. Slow enough that impatient people believe nothing is happening. Steady enough that committed people never stop moving. Think about an old watchmaker. Every tiny gear has a purpose. Every spring, every screw, every movement. Remove one seemingly insignificant piece, and the entire watch loses its ability to tell time. Your daily habits are those tiny gears. People often say, it's only one missed workout, it's only one late morning, it's only one unnecessary purchase, it's only 1 hour wasted. Individually, they appear harmless. Collectively, they quietly redirect the course of a lifetime. The opposite is equally true. One extra page, one extra conversation, one extra lesson learned, one extra act of courage, one extra promise kept. Tiny victories become extraordinary lives, not because each victory is dramatic, because they accumulate. Life keeps asking the same question in different forms. Can I trust you with more? Can I trust you with greater responsibility? Can I trust you with greater influence? Can I trust you with greater opportunity? And every ordinary day becomes your answer. You don't answer those questions with words. You answer them with patterns. Bart Philos reveal priorities. Priorities reveal character. Character reveals destiny. There was once a young carpenter who desperately wanted to become a master builder. Every day, he complained that his mentor only allowed him to sweep the workshop, organize the tools, and prepare the materials. Weeks became months. Months became years. Frustration grew inside him. One afternoon, he finally asked, "When are you going to teach me the important work?" The mentor looked around the workshop and quietly replied, "I've been teaching you the important work every single day." The young man looked confused. The mentor continued, "A person who cannot care for simple responsibilities will eventually destroy great responsibilities." Those words settled deeply. Years later, when the apprentice became one of the finest builders in the region, he realized the lessons had never been about wood. They had always been about discipline. Timing often hides inside responsibility. The responsibilities you handle today determine the opportunities you receive tomorrow. Many people pray for larger doors while ignoring the keys already in their hands. Think about that. How often do we overlook today's assignment because we're obsessed with tomorrow's dream. What if excellence today is the invitation to tomorrow? Here's something worth remembering. Your future is quietly watching your present. Every decision sends a message forward through time. Some decisions whisper confidence, others whisper doubt. Imagine your future self standing just beyond the horizon, watching every choice you make, watching whether you keep your word, watching whether you choose comfort or growth, watching whether you quit or continue. One day you'll become that future version. The question is, what inheritance are you leaving yourself? Years ago, I met an elderly teacher whose classroom walls were completely empty. No awards, no certificates, no photographs. Someone asked him why. He smiled and pointed toward the students leaving the room. My achievements walk out of that door every afternoon. What an extraordinary way to measure success. Not by possessions, not by recognition, by people. That conversation changed the way I viewed achievement. Successes isn't only what you accumulate, it's what you multiply. Your kindness multiplies, your discipline multiplies, your wisdom multiplies. Your example multiplies. Someone is always learning from the way you live. Maybe your child, maybe your younger brother, maybe a stranger who never introduces themselves. You never truly know who is borrowing courage from watching. You refuse to quit. That is why your consistency matters, even on the days nobody applauds, especially on those days. There is a quiet dignity in continuing, in showing up, in honoring your commitments, not because the world is watching, because your own soul is watching. Every promise you keep strengthens something invisible. Every excuse weakens it. Eventually, that invisible strength becomes visible confidence. People begin asking, how do you stay so focused? They assume discipline is a personality trait. It isn't. It's a decision repeated until it becomes part of your identity. Identity changes everything. If you believe you're someone who always gives up, you'll find reasons to quit. If you believe you're someone who finishes what they begin, you'll discover strength you didn't know existed. Notice how powerful beliefs are. They shape behavior long before behavior shapes results. That's why changing your identity is often more powerful than changing your goals. Don't simply say, I want to read more. Become a learner. Don't simply say, I want to exercise. Become someone who protects their health. Don't simply say, I want financial freedom. Become someone who manages money wisely. Goals can be completed. Identity continues growing. There was a mountain guide who spent decades leading people across dangerous trails. One traveler asked him what the greatest danger was. The guide didn't mention storms. He didn't mention cliffs. He didn't mention wild animals. He simply answered, rushing. Then he explained, the mountain is patient. People aren't. How many mistakes in life happen because someone couldn't wait? Investments abandoned too early. Relationships destroyed by impulsive words. Dreams surrendered one step before progress appeared. Impatience has quietly stolen more futures than failure ever has. Failure teaches. Impatience interrupts the lesson. That's why wisdom often sounds slower than ambition. Wisdom says, prepare, observe, learn, grow, then move with conviction. Ambition without wisdom becomes recklessness. Wisdom without action becomes hesitation. The extraordinary life is built where both meet. Think about rivers. A river doesn't become powerful because it moves violently. It becomes powerful because it never stops moving. Around rocks, through valleys, across generations. Steady movement reshapes entire landscapes. Your consistency has the same power. You may not notice today's effort. Tomorrow may still feel ordinary. Next month may not look dramatically different. But somewhere beneath the surface, your character is carving new pathways. Your thinking is becoming stronger. Your emotional endurance is increasing. Your patience is expanding. And one day you'll find yourself standing in a place that once seemed impossibly distant. wondering when everything began to change, the answer won't be found in one spectacular moment. It will be hidden inside hundreds of quiet decisions that nobody celebrated. The mornings you got up anyway, the evenings you kept learning anyway, the conversations where you chose honesty over comfort. The moments you forgave instead of carrying bitterness, the days you kept going when nothing around you suggested that your effort mattered. Because here's one of life's deepest paradoxes. The days that feel the least important often become the days that shape us the most. An ordinary afternoon can become the birthplace of extraordinary character. An unnoticed habit can become the foundation of remarkable achievement. A single decision made without applause can quietly redirect the course of an entire lifetime. And once you begin seeing life through that lens, you stop searching for dramatic turning points. You start respecting the quiet moments. You begin understanding that greatness doesn't interrupt ordinary life. It grows inside it, one faithful choice at a time, until eventually even the people who doubted you begin wondering where this new version of you came from, never realizing they were witnessing years of invisible growth finally becoming impossible to hide. So before you leave this moment, before this speech becomes another video you've watched, another message you've heard, another promise you've made to yourself, stop. Be completely honest with yourself. What has your future been trying to tell you? How many dreams are still waiting because you've been waiting? How many opportunities have quietly passed by because fear convinced you that tomorrow would be a better day to begin? Tomorrow has made more broken promises than yesterday ever did. The truth is, your future isn't waiting for the perfect version of you. It's waiting for the committed version of you, the version that gets up when it's difficult, the version that keeps going when nobody is watching, the version that refuses to let one failure become a lifelong identity. Your destiny will never be built in the moments when everything feels easy. It will be built in the moments when quitting sounds reasonable, but you choose to continue anyway. That is where character is born. That is where confidence is earned. That is where ordinary people become extraordinary. Years from now, you'll either remember this season as the time you finally took control of your life, or you'll remember it as another opportunity you allowed to slip away. That choice belongs to no one else. Not your circumstances, not your past, not your family, not your critics, not luck. You. Right here, right now. Imagine standing face to face with the person you could become 5 years from today, healthier, stronger, wiser, more disciplined, more peaceful. Living with purpose instead of excuses. Now imagine that person looking back at you and asking only one question. Why did you wait so long to believe in me? Don't make your future ask that question. Become the answer. Because every sunrise from this day forward is an invitation, is a vote. Every decision is a vote. Every habit is a brick. Every hour is building the life you'll someday call your own. Never underestimate the power of one courageous decision, one disciplined morning, one honest conversation, one page read, one workout completed, one excuse defeated, one promise kept. Lives don't change all at once. They change one faithful step at a time. And then one day, the life you once prayed for becomes the life you're living. People will call you fortunate. They'll call you gifted. They'll say your timing was perfect. But you'll know the truth. You'll remember the mornings no one applauded, the nights no one encouraged you, the moments when you chose discipline over comfort, purpose over distraction, growth over fear. You'll remember that greatness wasn't given to you, it was earned. So when you walk away today, don't carry inspiration alone, carry commitment. Don't chase motivation. Build discipline. Don't wait for confidence. Doctor-paid it through action. Don't ask whether this is your time. Make this your time. Because your future is not written by the days you dream. It is written by the days you decide. And if there is one promise I hope you carry with you for the rest of your life, let it be this. The person you are becoming is shaped by what you choose when no one is watching. Choose courage, choose discipline, choose growth, choose to begin. Today, not because it's easy, not because you're guaranteed success, but because one day you'll look back on this moment and realize it wasn't just another day. It was the day you stopped waiting for life to change and became the person who changed it.